Hello and welcome to Forever Red Devils for all your latest Manchester United news. A bit of a slow week really for United. Main thing was over the weekend, got the business done and into the next round of the FA Cup, and probably really the main thing to look out for this season is FA Cup and Europa. So we're now kind of going into a bit of a strange period because we've got about 4 Premier League games in a row. Nothing really to play for, given the fact that we've been so poor in the Premier League. So now it's about building. We're almost kind of in like a bit of a mini preseason, really, in terms of us not really being able to get anything out of the league, us not having a cup game in a while. So this gives us a unique sort of chance in the middle of the season to actually maybe just try and get the systems working, to maybe just try and test a couple of different combinations and to try and get some of the new signings, like Patrick Dorgu, for example, maybe an Aiden Heaven, maybe a potential debut for Chido Oba Martin and the likes, maybe trying to get them into the side and to start really figuring out where we are as a squad. We're going to do a bit of a look ahead. And the next time we're in a cup game is the 1st of March. So nothing in February. And then we've got our Europa League tie, which will be in I think it's March as well. So before we get into it and look at a bit of transfer rumors, and we're talking about a little bit about Giovanni Quende, talking a little bit about Casemiro leaving, and talking about Jadon Sancho proving Eric Ten Hag right with a single comment he made as Marcus Rashford made his debut over the weekend for Aston Villa. So let's get into it, shall we? So if you look at the fixtures to come, we've got Tottenham on Sunday, Everton on the Saturday the 22nd of February, and Ipswich on the 26th of February. So, that's the first midweek game we've got a couple of times. So basically 3 games for the rest of February, and we're only sitting on the 11th. Yes, it is February, obviously, which is a short month, but after Spurs, a bit of a straightforward period, and then we've got to really sort of knuckle down and do the business, because we've got some big fixtures coming up in March. We've got Arsenal in March, we've got City, and just in the beginning of April, we've got Leicester again in March, but the main thing is FA Cup and Europa League as well. So what are we going to see in the next few weeks? I think we're going to see a lot of Patrick Dorgu, for example. I think he's going to come in and get quite a few starts and get lots of minutes. I think we might see a bit of Aiden Heaven potentially getting an opportunity as we sort of look to try and test our depth with our centre backs, given the injuries and the likes of that. Maybe Mazraoui, for example, starting in that sort of centre back role. So I think we're going to see Aiden Heaven potentially, and I'm really, really hoping that we're looking to try and see a potential debut coming from Chido Obi Martin in the next few weeks as well. Because at the end of the day, he's been playing really, really well for the youngsters, got some insane stats, and now I think it's a really good opportunity to give him some time and some game time. And I'd like to see this experiment as well. I'd love to see us, give Joshua Zirkzee an opportunity in that number 10 role, for example, behind Rasmus Højlund. We've got to try and get those guys scoring goals and the likes of that, and we've got to try and really push to find out where are the deficiencies in the squad and where do we need to go and into the market. Come there. So this is basically kind of where we're at now. Is that we've got FA Cup round, a 5th round, and then we've got a round of 16 tie for Europa League. Those are obviously the big priorities. The league needs to be a little bit about rotation, about finding form, about getting players playing their best, because there is nothing to play for in the league. There really is nothing to play for in the league. We're not going to get to top 4. Top 4 currently sitting with Chelsea on 43 points. We're sitting on 29 points. We are 14 points behind top 4, and we're in February. So there's just not enough time to be able to sort of catch those sort of teams. And that's assuming the likes of City, for example, drop points and don't sort of catch up. Newcastle and the like. So there's nothing there for us in the league. The league needs to now basically come into a bit of a preseason, bit of a training opportunity for the team. And Ruben Amorim needs to really start extending his squad. But let's go into some of sort of the transfer rumors, shall we? Now, interesting news is that Casemiro could still leave Manchester United, given the fact that our transfer window is over. Obviously means he's not going to move into the Premier League or within really Europe. However, he could secure a move to Flamengo on loan for the rest of the season, and that could be confirmed as late as the 28th of February. So we still have 2 weeks where we could potentially offload Casemiro on loan, which would be a big help, I think. Just try and get those at least some of those wages off our books, and then look to try and find a permanent move in the summer. He's not playing a lot of football at the moment. He's just eating up a lot of wages, and I'd rather be giving those minutes to like sort of Toby Collier, than him, to try and build him into a player that maybe could become part of the regular squad next season. So that's kind of where the situation with Casemiro is. I mean, it's a bit of a disaster. Probably should have offloaded him in the off-season last season. We kind of sort of wait to see maybe with a bit of an extended preseason, he might be able to get back to full fitness. That hasn't quite worked out for him. He definitely doesn't suit the Ruben Amorim system either. So you've got to offload him. You've got to get rid of those wages. We're already saving big money on Marcus Rashford's wages. We're saving money on Anthony's wages, for example. And, we're going to probably offload, hopefully, both those players as well as Casemiro in the summer. And those are big wages that we're getting our save. So you've got to try and get Casemiro out nice and quickly. And the next question is, who are we already being linked to in the summer? Now, a big player that has been linked to United, and I think it's someone who, if he does leave in the summer, United will, first of all, very much be there to try and get him. And I think should be favourites, really. And that is Giovanni Quende, who is having he's having a breakthrough season at Sporting. At just 17 years old, he'll turn 18 in April. He's already had more than 20 appearances in the Premier League, or the Liga Portugal down there, and got a goal, 3 assists, and he very much suits the profile of United, going after these young sort of players and trying to sort of build them into, superstars. I don't think he'd be particularly cheap, for his age, but he'd be cheaper than going and getting a 100, 200 million pound player. And he's very much one for the future. The other big question is, do Manchester United go into the market for Harry Kane? Now, it was revealed recently that he's got a very, very favourable buyout clause, which is not a lot of money. And you've got to look at United right now with the strike situation and think, we have to find a striker. We have to bring somebody in. And yes, Harry Kane, not the youngest player. You probably want to go and get a Gyökeres, for example, because he's younger and, he's the next big thing. Harry Kane turns 32 in July. But we're talking about a player who's currently got 21 goals in 19 games in the Bundesliga with 6 assists. He is still one of, if not the best goal scorer in the world, alongside the likes of an Erling Haaland. And if we want to have instant improvement, he brings us that. 6 goals in the Champions League. 7 goals in 7 appearances, 21 goals in the Bundesliga. I mean, his stats remain insane. Now, yes, he's playing for Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga where they do dominate, but that doesn't take away the fact that he's played 28 matches so far for Bayern Munich this season, 28 goals, 10 assists. It's more than a goal involvement every, I think it's like 75 minutes. And you think about the fact that Rasmus Højlund is, basically he's not found the net this year. So we've got to go into the market, and if we can get Harry Kane in, for example, you can go get a Giovanni Quende. You probably need to add a midfielder. We probably need to look at our defense, potentially another left back or right wing back, and like that's somebody a bit more suited to the system. And I think we talk about players who we can bring in that make an instant difference. Harry Kane does that. We should have gone off all in on him. When he went to Bayern Munich, if you're being perfectly honest, we kind of all know I think that was the case. The nice thing is, for example, the fact that he's gone to Bayern Munich means you're not worrying about dealing with Spurs, so you're not going to have to pay English tax. So I do think we can get him for a much more favourable price, and if we can, then you've got to do it. You've got to go and get him on a decent price. I mean, if you're going paying 67 million pounds for Harry Kane, I still think that's a really good price, even at his age, because he's going to give you at least 3 more years of goals. And that's what he does. He gives you goals. Even playing in bad Spurs games, he was giving, 15 to 20 goals per season. Easily. In the Premier League itself, across all competitions, close to 30 goals. So even in a poor United team, you expect him to score goals. And we are a poor United team. And I think that he does change. I think he's a player that works hard. So he really fits the Ruben Amorim work ethic, for example. He'll press well. The fact he's got 10 assists, almost more than a third of the amount of goals he's got means, he's a player that brings other players into it. So I think he's the perfect type of player for Ruben Amorim. And I think the main thing is that he'd be the perfect type of player to then mold Rasmus Højlund into the type of player we know that Rasmus Højlund can hopefully one day become. I'm not going to sell Rasmus Højlund. I wouldn't mind Jasper Xerxes leaving, and then you're left with Harry Kane and Rasmus Højlund as your main striking options. That for me is all right. I think that's adequate depth, as long as you then have the midfield depth. I don't want to see Kobe Mainoo leading the line once again. He's a midfielder. He's going to be a midfielder, and he needs to stay there, and that's where he needs to play. And I think anytime we are playing him outside of the midfield, I think we're doing him a disservice, to be honest, because I think that's just not where he's the best. I think that's not where he's the best for United. So, yeah, I think that those for me are two potentially big transfers. But I really hope you look at bringing in reinforcing the midfield. Mason Mount's been a disaster, and we probably need to strengthen the defense as well and find more players who are suited to the system. The only thing is, though, is depending on how I suppose the next few months go, is how much backing they're going to give Ruben Amorim, because how much do they want to buy system players, inverted commas, that suit his system versus buying players who could potentially suit a replacement manager. Now Harry Kane's somebody who suits any system. At the end of the day, if the system doesn't suit him, the system's wrong, type of thing, because he is that good. But I do worry about us going and getting, left wing back, right wing backs, having a stacked amount of centre backs to play in that midfield, having very specific midfielders in sort of system, those dual tens, for example, not having natural wingers and the likes of that. And then things don't go well, we look to replace Ruben Amorim, and all of a sudden you've got the squad which is overloaded in certain areas and underloaded in other areas. And speaking of sort of offloading players, is Jadon Sancho has decided to try and make himself relevant again, and you cannot understand the thinking behind this player. I mean, he's 24 years old. You think he'd learn by now. You think he would have grown up a little bit, and just the dumbest tweet ever. So Jadon Sancho over the weekend responded to Marcus Rashford's post about him. Starting at Villa, for example. There's nothing really in Marcus Rashford's coach. He basically just said, thank you for the warm welcome, great team performance, and posted a picture of himself playing for Villa. And Jadon Sancho thought that it was a really, really good idea to go and write freedom on his post, indicating that he was a prisoner in United, much like Jadon Sancho was a prisoner to United. I mean, Jadon Sancho is just becoming the absolute epitome of unprofessionalism. He was horrible at United, had a fallout with Ten Hag. Ten Hag then said, well, you need to come apologize. You need to actually, put your head down, admit you were wrong, and get yourself back in the team. Jadon Sancho decided he wanted to sulk. He sulked for months, then he went to Dortmund and had a reasonable spell there. Everyone going, oh, you see, United's the issue. He's a great player. It wasn't his fault. But guess what? He's now gone to Chelsea and he's been bang average. Absolutely bang average. He started off well and it was going, oh, here we go. What a signing. And, got a couple of goals, a couple of assists early on in his Chelsea move. And it's since been really, really average, if we're going to be perfectly honest. And now sits with 2 goals and 4 assists, so 6 goal involvements in 18 Premier League matches. And he got 2 assists in the Conference League. So in his 22 games for Chelsea, he's got 2 goals and 6 assists. Not exactly anything to write home about, is it? And it's not through a lack of game time. If you look at his Premier League form, for example, he last scored a goal back in August, and his last goal involvement came on the 4th of January. He's not scored, he hasn't had an assist since then, and he's played 90 minutes against Bournemouth, 28 minutes against Wolves, 73 minutes against City, 52 minutes against West Ham, and has not produced anything really that's anything to write home about, to be perfectly honest. And I mean, when you look at, for example, who he's playing in that Conference League, I mean, his last game was against Shamrock Rovers and wasn't a new sub. So yeah, I mean, his move is not materialized at all, and I think people are starting to see that he's the issue. And Chelsea are now going to have to go and buy a player they probably don't even want to buy, given the fact that you look at those stats. I don't think anyone's like, that's not stats to write home about. I don't think Chelsea are going, oh cool, what a bargain. We're going to get him at the end of the season. So it just shows you the mentality of a player. I mean, even if that's how you feel, to go and write that just shows completely that I think Erik ten Hag was right. I think he was right to basically say, well, I don't want this kind of attitude in the squad. I think his decision's been vindicated, and I don't think there's any United fans who are now looking at Jadon Sancho going, oh, no, shame, like, he actually deserved to play and we should have given him a chance. No, he's actually just lazy and has a massive ego, and we don't have time for that. We really don't. I mean, Marcus Rashford had a bright debut yesterday for Villa. We'll wait and see how it goes. But Jadon Sancho, thankfully, is not going to ever come back to United. And I look forward to Chelsea having to worry about him on his big wages and trying to fit that kind of player in who just doesn't seem to warrant the hype that he had at Dortmund. I mean, 2-3 seasons ago, I mean, when we signed him, we were really excited. He came off a really good season, but it was quite clear initially, first of all, that he was going to struggle in the Premier League, but also that he wasn't willing to work to try and get himself into the Premier League standards and to make himself a valuable part of the team. I mean, Alejandro Garnacho completely outplaying him. Even Rasmus Højlund having a really poor season this season. I think has actually got more goal involvements. I think Joshua Zirkzee almost has more involvements as well. Rashford's got the same amount of Premier League goals, but he's also got 5 goals in the Europa League, as well as a couple of assists. So he's got more involvements, and Joshua Zirkzee has now got where's the stats here? Yeah, he's got 3 goals, 4 and assists, so he's got 1 goal involvement less. And I mean, we're talking about him as a complete flop. So yeah, and like Jaden, not gone well there for Chelsea, but I think good that we now know that he will definitely leave. Because also the main thing is that even if they come back to United at the end of the season, firstly, we wouldn't have wanted to keep him. Second of all, how do you offload a player who's now had, really poor stint at United, then a decent stint at Dortmund, but then a really poor stint at Chelsea? There is all these issues, where he's quite clearly seems to have an attitude problem or seems to be an ego there. What clubs are really going to want to come in for him? What clubs are going to pay decent money for him? And the answer is I don't think any, really. So that is the Jadon Sancho situation. Right, we'll have a video up a little later about a couple of other updates and stuff like that, and maybe kind of looking at what our squad builder might look like for next season. And then we'll obviously be live tomorrow morning. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well.